Joey and Friendz here to save the day. Talking about dolls and making our own way. Talking to visionaries, dreamers, and kin. Anyone can play here cause we all fit in. From Darcy to Body, from Dawn to Glimmer, we talk about world as the lights go dimmer. Follow us to a playground filled with stories and let us entertain you with tales of our glories.
Today's friend is the fabulous Amy Sprouse from Tiny Ribbons.
A crown.
I am. And I've got my Barbie mug full of coffee.
Well, I have my repurposed spaghetti jar. So
Yes.
I've ever seen those reels where it's just people like breathing, like they cut out all the talking and it's just like a bunch of, like that. Have you ever seen that? It's like that's gonna be like with me.
I'll just say and our guest, Amy Sprouse, and then you can
Okay.
be like, hi, and then I'll go into
I'll do one of these. It'll be like
yeah.
standing in, hey everybody.
Calling Amy, we can't see you, Amy.
Be like 4.
Right. And we're back. Yes.
Hey.
Hi, everybody. It's Joey Dollmaker Versaw here, and we are here with our special guest, Amy Sprouse of Tiny Ribbons.
Yeah, Tiny Ribbons Studios. House.
Yeah. Hi, Amy.
Hi, Joey.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm all amped up for this now.
Got your crown on.
I got my crown on. I'm ready to talk to the Queen of Restorations.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yes. Well, so I'm going to start out with asking you what your first doll was.
I think it was Baby Alive. Yeah,
Oh,
it
okay.
was like 1975. I remember my mom took a picture of me as a tiny one, and it was Baby Alive. And I could not, I'm not like a baby doll person. Even to this day, I'm not like, that's not what I'm drawn to.
Yeah.
But I think it was Baby Alive. And then it was Baby Wet and Care, I think, the Kenner products.
Yeah.
And Baby Alive, you could feed her and then she would poo it out in the diaper, which was and I think maybe that makes sense. Like that's why I love gimmicky dolls now. If there's a gimmick like Kissing Barbie or like Miss, like Miss Barbie with the flirty, the sleep eyes.
Yeah.
I love those types of dolls.
I do too. I actually have a really unhealthy connection to Western winking Barbie. I save them every time I see them. A few dolls that, for some reason, I can never leave behind if I see them, unless they're insanely priced, But Pink and Pretty and Western Winking and Beauty Secrets, I have dozens of those dolls, and it's just because I pick them up every time because I'm like, oh no, we can't leave you here, you have to come with me. And poor Western Winking Barbie, capability of 3D sculpting and everything, literally for years I've been collecting these dolls thinking I'm going to fix them one day. I'm going to redo, even if it's something that just pops in as new lids and doesn't work or whatever. I'm like, I'm
lids are down.
I want to fix all these darling dolls that everybody constantly makes fun of and uses as their drunk character in their TikTok videos or whatever. And so I'm like, poor Western Barbie. When I was a kid, she was magical, Yeah. So I know all about gimmicky dolls.
Yeah, I was in a Whatnot Live show. I do them every once in a while. And I had one of my customers sent me a box full of stuff and like hodgepodge mix of things. And one of the things was just the head to a Kissing Barbie. And I'd always I've seen like people take the vinyl off, like because she's just sewn in the back. And that to me, like the Fembot doll, I don't know if you remember that doll.
Oh, yeah. I'm a huge Jamie Summers fan. So.
Love that doll. Yeah, and the Jamie Summers popping the flaps open. You have those bionic chips. I'm like, give it to me.
When I wasn't spinning around like Wonder Woman as a little boy, I was running through the house.
I can picture it like her, careening over a fence. I almost, because I sold a bunch of like dollar store items and I almost sold that and I stopped myself because you can see the post and the neck is the part that makes her do the the
Right.
piercing part. And I was like, no, that's going to go on my shelf. I don't want to sell it for $1. She may have sold for more, but you can't like rebody her if she
Right.
doesn't have her actual body. And I have like, you can see this line of heads right here.
Yeah.
These are all like factory original. Some of them are just like TLC heads, but I can't, if it's, I don't mind, like I call this my wall of misfits. And
Yeah.
it's like I don't mind imperfect things in my collection because actually I find them endearing. That just
Me
tells our
too.
history. But a lot of these heads are factory original. There used to be I used to buy them on eBay. There, I think it was a manufacturing plant in China that had like the cast offs for Mattel, and maybe Mattel like was like, can't do that, and because they don't sell them anymore. But I was able for several years, I was able to get really cool. There's a couple of Francie heads, you can't see them, but there's a couple of Francie heads up, like reproduction Francie heads that are
Yeah.
not painted and not rooted at all. It's just the cast, it's just the sculpt. And
Yeah, I have a couple of those as well. I think we during the same time I must have been scoring
we're,
from the same
yeah.
people. Yeah, and that's how I was one of the lucky people that got about a dozen of the Bratz Mattel Brats that were never produced.
What?
Yeah, because we know how shady Mattel is. And what happened was when they thought that they won the lawsuit with MGA over the Brats, they had so much nerve they were going to put them licensed under their own Mattel and just make
I
Brats.
never heard of this.
Yes, and
Really?
so they started production of these Bratz dolls. There was all this hubbub when like heads started appearing. There was all this hubbub of people like, no, those are going to be their new Mycene. And it's like, no, these are not Mycene heads. These are Bratz heads just made by Mattel and sculpted by Mattel. And then now we know that, yes, that's what they were because more has come out over the years. But yeah, they're shady, shady little Mattel.
Never heard that. I mean, I knew about all the controversy and like all that went down between the Mycene and the
Right.
original creator of Bratz, and he designed them while he worked at Mattel, which is a huge no-no. Because I worked for American Girl for a while, which is owned by Mattel.
Yeah.
They're so strict with their IP that you cannot work on side projects
Yeah.
and be employed. Otherwise, they can take ownership of that idea. And I was
Which
like,
kills you as an artist. It really does. That's one of the reasons, not that I've been asked, but that's one of the reasons why I probably wouldn't work with a company like that, because if I wanted to on my own be making something that had nothing to do with what I was doing for the company, and they were like, "No," I'd be like, "No, my life is too short. I want to create too many things." So,
yeah. I mean, I could tell you some stories. I won't go into detail now. You may have gotten some too, but they used to do when they did the Comic-Con She-Ra doll a couple of years ago, that beautiful, I guess, action figure slash doll. They had
yeah, I
that.
got some of their heads.
Did
Yeah.
you? I have a bunch of them too, and they were rerouted, and so I got them on is it the Super DC Superhero Girls or whatever? They were more comic booky, but
Yeah.
their bodies are a dead ringer for those heads. And I have been like, just this morning, I was like, I should make time to repaint those faces and make them my characters because I've got so many dolls that I have tucked away because I have a 400 square foot apartment. My whole apartment is probably half of the size of the space that you're currently in, and like living and working out of this
A small
space.
space. I know all about small spaces. Yeah.
So, but I took
Here
a
we
chance.
are. We're doing what
Yeah,
we love,
right. You make it happen. It's like I
Exactly.
said,
And I can't even spread out the way that I would like to, because I am going to do a studio tour soon and show like more detail, because there's so much that doesn't get seen. I mean, I have a huge Kenner strawberry shortcake collection that's
oh my
like
God.
all on display. I have,
I just put
yes,
sour grapes out because
sour
you did that
grapes.
remake.
Yes.
And you did that remake, and I was like, can I justify it? Can I justify it? And I saw that you gave Luke one, and I was like, I need one. But was able to get a sour grapes, and I did a little lemon meringue. I was like, I wonder if Joey will see.
Oh,
I
that's
know
so
that
cute.
you're a superstar. I know that you're a strawberry shortcake person.
Yes, I'm very much a strawberry
Like,
shortcake
it's
person.
like, oh, to Joey. Me
Yeah.
too. I love them. It's like that is like for me, and I think I'm at a point now where in this superstar Barbie where she right here, I just did a reel about her the other day, and I don't buy stuff for myself that often because I live, like I was telling you in our Facebook messaging,
Right.
I'm very humble with my spending. Like I just, I'd rather save my money. I'd rather save my, I do a lot of thrifting, a lot
Yeah.
of thrifting. And, but I was like, you know what? I think it's time for me to just kind of start. I don't have to spend a bunch of money on stuff, but if I can find it for a decent price and I want to start like enjoying those things
Right.
and buying those things for myself. And um but like I started to say, I've got so many things in bins and I don't have a
Oh, that's what
place
I was gonna
place
say
them.
too about this space is that it's big in the sense that this is a I think it's a 1,200 or 1,400 square foot
Oh my
room.
god, that's
And it was an old classroom, and the wind
oh
I have windows all the way across, which I have to curtain 24/7 because I don't need that light coming in on my collection or my work.
light, the
Right.
light.
And I work with resin, and resin cures under light, so I've got to keep it all very, very dark. And then, for my collection, my preciouses. But I have on the other side of this wall, for example, I have bins stacked up, bins after bins of my Darcy collection, my Shira collection,
Oh,
most of my gem collection, stuff like that that I would love to be able to like museum out, but I had to kind of like pick and
curate. You had to
right.
curate. That's what
Yes.
I call
And
it.
so I have a surrounding in my studio of collectibles or my collection. And then I try to keep my cases full of my actual art dolls so that when people come to visit the studio or we have open studio, they're not just like, oh, this is just a big like antique store with lots of collectible dolls. It's like, no,
You're
my
like,
art is actually here too.
and
Yeah,
yeah,
and.
that's all right. Yeah, I could get like those two. I have some of the strawberry shortcake pets, but I don't have any other strawberry shortcake dolls. And I don't know why, because I was absolutely enthralled with strawberry shortcake. I think that I was born in 72. I don't know what year you were born.
78.
Okay. So but you're still around the era of like I was just getting a whole bunch of stuff together because I do resell on Etsy and eBay as well as whatnot. But I was looking at the Heart Family baby little
Yeah.
dolls that they did and looking at the sculpts of their little hands and their feet. And I just was like, I miss the sweetness of the era. The
Yes.
80s were so
Oh, there's nothing like it, which is why they continue to go back to it, but then they don't do it the way that they did it. And I mean, it's fine. We all need to evolve and products evolve, but you look at like My Little Ponies and they
I've got
were
tons of
so
them.
sweet when they were the original Gen 1 ponies are so sweet and the babies and stuff. And then throughout the years with them changing that like recipe, they're not as sweet anymore,
They're
and
more
I
snatched.
yeah. Yeah.
The 70s and 80s toys and even the 60s toys were just so absolutely magical, and I feel lucky to have grown up in that. I mean, there's
Yeah.
still stuff about the 90s too, and I love dolls from like the 2007 to like
Oh,
2000.
I was just gonna say I think from 2000 when the I call it the Jewel Girl face mold, but when the Gen Girl face mold was introduced, from that era, getting to experience Fashion Fever, which was all pretty much because the brats they felt like the punch and they had to make something that was more street, more urban, and more detailed than they had before, and they were making this incredible stuff. So my loves, I mean, I love the 60s, the 70s. I love the early 70s. When we get into the mid 70s, where they had to cut costs because of economical stuff going on, it was not my favorite time periods and of fashion because a lot of their fashions were cotton peasant
Yeah,
stuff and it was just kind of like, meh. But once we got into Superstar herself, Then the magic came back for me. But I think that I lost it again somewhere in the 90s. Like there's a appreciation I have for the 90s Barbies, but
Because you
then
feel obligated to.
yeah, and then I lost it a bit, but that early 2000, that first 10 years, I would say from 2000 to 2010, the collector dolls, I mean, you put any of those next to $100 Athena collector doll or Medusa, and you put them towards our $100 collector dolls today. Sorry. Like, like,
I need a blindfold. Yeah.
and it's hit and miss with them today. Like, I feel like sometimes they really do knock it out of the park, and I'm like, wow, okay, they did a really great job. But I would say like 85, for me, like 85% of the time, they're not special. They don't have the magic. They don't have the detail. They're not worth the money. I don't like pixelized eyes. I just don't. And to put that on collector dolls to me is just like, I'm not gonna spend over $100 for a doll that has little dot eye, all over her eyes or lips.
Yeah. I mean, for Playline, fine, but we're talking, yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't. I was a product development manager for Ashton Drake for a while, for a bit, and so I kind of have that behind the scenes production side of things and
Yeah.
understanding like it has to be marketable. It has to be there has to be mass. The testing has to be well received for them to do the to justify the investment and all of that. And everything's about cost, the cost of goods. And it had to be under like really, you would be surprised at the cost of goods, but they were able to do it because they manufacture it overseas and they do
Right.
a large volume. So there's a massive discount. But um, I, I, people will ask me that, like, I can't, the dolls that you do are so beautiful. Why can't they just do that? So I have that background of I understand why because I can be, rather gluttonous in the time that I spend
Right.
on creating something and they don't have that time. I mean, stuff is like move it and shake it, move it and shake it. So it's got to be worth the product, but I also know that there are a lot of very, very, very well paid VPs and
Right.
EVPs at higher upper echelon at these toy companies, and that's where a lot of the money goes. And so
I just always found it really crazy because when I started doing my Ken doll repaints, um, they were becoming really popular and people were
do you
loving
still do
them
them?
because they were in different colors than, Mattel would ever do. And I did a lot of like neon and did a lot of kind of crazy stuff and people really loved that. And I thought to myself, when they released the four doll set of Midge, Barbie, Allen, and Ken, and it was all reproductions we had already had, and that four doll set sat on their website for almost 2 years and they ended up clearancing those out for nothing. And now actually they're kind of expensive online. But at the time, it was like, this is boring. What are we doing? And I thought to myself, there would be no difference in production costs if they gave Barbie light pink hair and Midge lavender hair and made their outfits like, in pinks and whatever and changed the colors where they were still the same exact doll, but a doll that we never were able to have, or a color variation we were never able to have. They would have sold the hell out, and they would have no differences in their price range, and so that stuff like that always kind of irked me with Mattel because I thought, why aren't you thinking outside of the box? Why are you only making an African American number one Barbie as a convention exclusive that nobody can get their hands on unless they're going to spend 400 plus dollars? Why aren't you actually releasing stuff like that? It's to me, it's like it all made sense, but they're not doing it.
I think that I'm sure, I have caught flack before with my remakes, people like I recently posted about a scooter that I reimagined with center eyes and blue eyes, and the way that I've started to paint my dolls and doing a lot more detail in the eyes, which modernizes them. Like I try to like make a nod to the
The
nostalgic
vintage
past,
look. Yeah.
but also something, like again with these Kens that I've been working
Yeah.
on. I hope you don't think I'm copying you with these Kens.
No, 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 no. I mean, people have been repainting and doing things like
Okay.
this forever. No.
Because you had a very specific, like, I just, and which I loved so much about your Ken dolls is I mean they're your doll lines anyways is the fluorescent colors that you use, and you reimagine them that way. But what really gets me going is those underwear that you were making out of fabric that were actually like there was
Superstar era and vintage fabrics. Yeah.
oh, no, there's like one of them had the
Oh, the prints. Yeah.
yeah, the prints. Like there was one, I think in one of your Facebook groups, somebody posted dolls for sale, and one of them had the floral TNT PJ fabric
Yes.
prepared for
Yes.
their undies, their skibbies, and I was like, brilliant. And you used the cord to like make and it's just like this is the kind of stuff that like I get excited about. But getting back to what we were talking about, I think like I haven't really caught a lot of heat when I make my Kens. I do the rooted, like the hard head
Yeah.
flocked Kens. They
Yeah.
add the
It's
pompadour and all that stuff.
beautiful.
And people have come for me a couple of times because it's
Why?
I think people like the Barbie purists, like I'm a
Mhm.
Barbie, and they'll be like, I'm a Barbie purist, and I really don't understand why you feel the need that you have to. I'm like, because they're already kind of trashed,
They're
Mildred.
trash.
You
They're
know?
trash. You can
Yeah.
go on eBay, Etsy, wherever, whatever platform at any point in time and find 500 nude Ken, Allen, whatever dolls, and they're trashed. And also, unless they're super minty, nobody really wants them because they're only getting them for, and I'm using a plug of what I used to call my Ken dolls, arm candy. But they really are just for arm candy for their beautiful Barbies. There are some that are just Ken purists, but the point is that they made tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of these dolls, and they're just going to like end up in a landfill. Like the fact that an artist is actually grabbing these at like 5, 10, $15 a piece. Of course, it's kind of expensive when you add shipping if you're buying singularly online or
And
trying to find
taxes.
them in thrift stores or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, these dolls, a lot of them, the paint's already worn down, their hair is completely gone,
Yeah.
whatever. And so anything, to me, anything that you do, even a child having like some class project and turning them into an alien, bravo, you're
Right.
utilizing something that otherwise is kind of useless. So the fact that people would come for anybody who's actually just putting good energy into an old doll and transforming them into something that people are going to actually love to have in their collection, that's a win for everyone, I would think. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I try to see it from other people's point of view too, but I just kind of like along the line of like why Mattel may not want to alter the image or the trademarked or the copywritten image of a Ken, of a Barbie, to do it
Right.
differently. Although I say that, and that's a bunch of horse pucky, because they do it with convention dolls. I actually still have my very first issue of Barbie Bazaar magazine. My late sister, changed my world forever with that issue, because I did not know that world existed back
Yeah.
then. This was like it was an October 1997 issue of Barbie Bazaar, and I was like, "What is this?" And she's like, "I picked this magazine up for you," and I was like, "Oh my god!" And my first long distance bill after getting that magazine was $383, and this is 97, dude.
Oh my God.
Because I was like, "You still have a Beauty Secrets doll in the box?" And they're like, "Yeah, we got, what else do you need? We got Pink and Pretty, we got Golden Dreams." And I was like,
Right.
"What?" So
Yeah.
you can send an LSA or what was it, long self-addressed stamped envelope, LASAD, or whatever.
Right.
And then, so, You'll get that pamphlet in the mail, and that's how I started the doll lounge. I was like, okay, well, let me see, because I've been buying a lot, and then I was like, I'd start doing the ads, and they're still in the Barbie Bazaar.
That is so
And
cool. And
I
I
was
think
like,
that might have been how I found you originally
maybe,
all those years ago, because I know that our friendship started with me buying Darcy products from you because we were both big Darcy people.
yeah,
It kind of unlocked a little a core memory of mine when you talked about Barbie Bazaar opening up this world for you because
good.
yes, and Miller's I had met this lady through the magazine that actually lived in my town that yes. Oh, I have that
Yeah,
article saved.
yeah, it's me.
Yeah,
It's
I
me.
love it.
I was
Uh,
so like, yeah, like, yay. I
Yay,
thought about like
Darcy.
making copies of this because the magazine's defunct. Miller's Fashion Doll's been gone for many years, but I thought about making copies of this. Like, if any, like, that's the stuff is like, is it even relevant anymore? Like, I don't
Yeah.
even know. But
Well,
anyway,
because of that magazine, got hooked up with this lady in my town named Cookie Mullen, and she was the most, I would think she was at the time, this would have been like, the late 90s, and I think that she was in her 80s at that point in time, maybe 70s, 80s. And I went to her house and she opened the garage door and she had a gorgeous brand new Cadillac in the garage and she said, Barbie bought me this car. And as we were walking through her garage, she said, and Barbie put all of my kids through college, are paying for my kids college. And I was like, oh. She literally takes me to the back of her really big house, and there is Mattel factory boxes stacked to the ceiling, just like warehouse style
oh,
everywhere. And she's pulling out factory fresh box cases of the Guardian Goddesses and of, like you said, like Beauty Secrets or Golden Dreams or Pink and Pretty. She's like, what are you looking for? And I was just like, this is insanity, as a little gay boy coming in there and seeing all of this. I just lost I couldn't, and of course I didn't
you
have
were like,
tons
I
of
need a
money.
minute. I need a minute.
Yeah, I need a minute. And so this would have been 90, probably
Oh
like
my God.
97 or 98. And
Right?
I think she was selling those mitten box factory case Guardian Goddesses for $20. Um, but yeah, that memory just
Oh,
unlocked for me. But the
how
whole
exciting.
it
I
was
have,
so exciting. And then we got, different things like Paul David had a publication
yeah,
of
Candy
like a
Girl.
catalog of
Mhm.
ordering dolls through them and stuff. And so this whole collector universe just blew up in the late 90s and people were, opening shops and they were having like, like he had a catalog and stuff. And I ordered my first gem llama through Paul David's catalog, because he had some usurp from the company or whatever, and he had like hundreds of these llamas that he was selling through his catalog. And that's how I had got my first one. A lot of my gem collection, a lot of my Darcy collection came from people that had lists. And sometimes, a lot of the times, there were no pictures. You just crossed your fingers that this was good, and they're going to be in good
I have
shape,
a story about that too.
yeah.
It's so I can't like I'm so excited. I wish I was there with you right now. It's so I mean, I can talk to my friends about it, but they're not the same. I have doll people in my life, but talking to somebody like you that gets as excited about it as I do, still all these years later,
Yes.
that's what's really, really fun. And yeah, I wish there were I I can't even like when I talk to people that aren't familiar with doll shows, I'm like, you have no idea what you're missing out on. But they're not what they used to be. They're back then they were lined around the building.
Oh, it was a whole
That
different,
was that
yeah,
was pre-eBay. That's the only way that you could really find other than the catalogs. But I
exactly.
remember sending money off to somebody. I don't remember where she was. She's an older lady, and it was for I forget what doll it was. Maybe it was the Fran Drescher doll or something.
Yeah, yeah.
For
The
me,
nanny
I can't.
doll.
Something. It was a celebrity doll that I wanted, and I had ordered several dolls from her. And then I got the order in the mail, and she didn't have the doll, so she sent me like the Baywatch Barbie in its place, and I was just like, what
No,
is
this is not the same
like
thing.
um or no, maybe it was a Vanna White doll.
Yeah.
Those just were just not my vibe at
Yeah.
all. I don't want to poo-poo anything. I could be careful, but and she was like fighting me, and I was like, I did not. You can't give me something that I didn't. Well, she could because she did, and she's wasn't going to let me return it. And I'm like, you can't do a switcheroo, like just refund
No.
my money.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I agree with you. And there were times where like the Great Eras collection came out back then, and the Victorian Barbie and the Southern Belle Barbie were going for like 150, $200. Remember the Harley Barbie? Remember the first Harley
Yes.
Barbie and how,
Yes.
I mean, it was like
Oh my
$1,200.
gosh. Well, even like the first holiday Barbie, the 1988 holiday Barbie, she was selling for like $500. You know what? People don't understand like how expensive these dolls are. And then I'll have these ladies that'll reach out to me with their, oh, I have a huge, very expensive
Very vintage.
vintage Barbie collection, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what do you mean by vintage? They're all in their boxes. And I'm like, like pink box, like what are we talking about? And it always is collectible 90s dolls,
Mhm.
and they'll have their receipts with these dolls that were like, I paid $110. And I'm like, well, I'm really sorry to tell you, but you can go on eBay and get one mitten box inner shipper for 15 to
$10.
$20 because nobody cares anymore, and and then they think that you're lying because you want to take their riches from them, with their marvelous collection. And I'm like, I'm just sorry, it's
Yeah,
just
just
not
being
the
honest.
reality,
Honest is the best. Honesty is the best policy. But yeah, and what's fun for me is when I go to the doll shows here near Wisconsin. I go to several in Illinois, and I see the younger collectors discovering fashion fever, discovering
Yes.
the like all of these like really really beautifully done 90s dolls, like even or like they didn't know about fashion fever. They didn't know about what are some of the other like Barbie basics, or
Right.
oh, those are like 2009 2010, but they're discovering the when quality really was, even in the playline dolls. And they're just like, oh my god. And I'm like, oh, you
You
just
have
wait,
no
keep
clue. You're just
looking.
scrape the top
Yeah,
of the, my
yeah.
partner Dylan, he just started collecting last year. And it was something he just had never thought of. But he always liked dolls like when he was a kid and stuff. But then when he started seeing me and my collection, and then also how open I was about it, he was like, I think I might start collecting. So it's been really fun watching through his eyes because like this Christmas, he has a dollhouse now and it's all decked out and he really likes the whole dollhouse kind of vibe and dolls for his dollhouse and furniture sets and stuff like that. And he loves the clothing and he's got just tons now of these zipper dollar store zipper pink doll cases that are clear, and he buys them like by the dozen and then separates all his clothes by tops and skirts and whatever. But I got him the Great Era's Grecian goddess, or the one
Okay.
that has the little curls all in the front and the
Okay.
rooted
Yeah.
lashes from
Hmm.
the 90s. And I
Hmm.
got him that for Christmas. When he opened that box, he gasped. He like literally gasped. And so to get to see through somebody's like eyes experiencing this all for the first time.
Oh, this one's heavier. Oh my god. Hello? Who is this vixen? Oh my god.
Because me, I'm like, yeah, that's 90s garbage and they made
Oh my God.
a ton of it and it's just
Yeah.
collectible,
This
whatever.
all crap. I
It's
just
all
throw
crap, like,
I'm
yeah,
gonna
I've had
donate it
hundreds through my
anyways.
hands. I don't care, I've
I just
twisted
want to
those
see it.
damn twisty ties. Yeah. I, I, I've never pulled a Michaelman though. And me and my friend always call it pulling a Michaelman because Michaelman wrote this article for Doll Reader or Miller's or something years ago, and it was when the first collectible ballerina dolls like Sugar Plum Fairy or like whatever were coming out, and they had new sculpted ballet legs in the boxes. And Michaelman was talking about how he was so eager to get this Barbie out of the box that he had put his hand around the doll and to yank her off of the card and not finish untwisting the twisty ties or whatever. And he actually broke, one of her legs pulling her out of the thing. So now I say, like, oh, make sure to get all your twisty ties and everything done beforehand. You don't want to pull a Michaelman and break your doll. But
I never heard of that.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. Good times, man. Yeah, it's so like those of us who knew being around with eBay in its infancy, I remember paying like $250 for an Erica doll in the box.
Yes,
And
and now sometimes you can snag one for 100 because people are just like, yeah, and they pop up. I got I had a few Danas that were loose, but I got my first Dana probably about 4 years ago or something in box for $100, and it was just to buy it now. And I was like, and even at the time, I even hemmed and hoed it for a little bit, even though I knew it was a great deal financially. When you have ups and downs, sometimes you're like, eh.
yeah,
But that doll sat there for almost a week at $100 in her box, and I was like, that's insanity. And so I had snagged her. But yeah, it's stuff that we paid insane prices for pre-eBay.
what's your favorite Darcy outfit?
Oh my gosh, my favorite Darcy outfit is probably Firecracker. I love, but I think Green Light is probably my favorite. I really love Green Light. I love Mellow Yellow because I do have something weird with terry
Does she have a
cloth
jumpsuit like
and a
that?
jumpsuit look, that's like there's something really like
That
amazing
terry
about
cloth.
that. I
Hmm.
think that the first outfit that I purchased from you that I had never had in person before
I can't
was,
believe you remember that.
yeah, it was, and it had all its proper bracelets and everything. It was, well, I'm not remembering the name. It's the purple bathing suit.
Simply splashing.
I was thinking Simply, and I was like, there's more to it. Yeah, Simply Splashing.
Yeah.
That was the first Darcy outfit that I bought through you.
Oh my God.
And
I can't believe you
oh,
remember that.
I'm totally forgetting about now it's been so many years since I've been so hard into Darcy, and I have all these names flying around, but the satin western outfit,
Lightning.
yeah, Blue Lightning. That's really up there. I love Blue Lightning. What's your
Yeah.
favorite?
Probably copper coveralls.
Oh yeah, I love copper
And
coveralls.
probably Sunshiner, but with the red vinyl, not the red
Yeah,
bag, but the red vinyl Darcy portfolio.
yeah,
Those two are so. I remember being out at a place, it was Barb's Doll House. It was in St. Joseph, Michigan, which was like an hour or so south of where I lived in Grand Rapids. And I could get my fix. Back then I smoked and I drank coffee, so I'd get a pack of smokes. We're talking again in the 90s.
yeah.
I'd gas up my car and I'd grab a pack of smokes and I'd grab a big thing of coffee and, listening to whatever random, like maybe Nickelback or something.
Right, right.
Get a bad rap.
Evanescence.
Exactly. I still love that music. Um, Yeah, this is how you remind me. But or like
Maybe a little Shakira here and there. Yeah.
and I just window down just on the way there and just get there and it's like there's something and like I would kind of be able to get a little bit of a fix going to Toys R Us, but going
Yeah.
to like I talk about that experience a lot with other people, like other doll people. Like my love of attending doll shows is like Christmas morning for me because
Yes.
it truly is like a dopamine fix
And
for
not
her.
everybody understands that. Even
Yeah.
people that collect dolls, they don't get that weird euphoria. I'm one of those people that literally my friends laugh at me because they're like, your eyes change when you walk into a doll show. Like,
They
and
dilate.
uh-huh. And they also know to leave
Oh,
me alone for the
yeah.
first like little bit because I do my lap where I eagle eye first and I zone out and I'm in a different world. and I zone out and eagle eye and I'm
Yeah.
on the hunt and I walk around that show because I know, and I ignore so much at first because I know what I'm looking for. And
Yeah.
then once I've done my initial scan, then I go back and I can like enjoy myself and like pay attention to the other things. But yeah, there's something about it. It actually literally gets me high being at a doll event like that. And I will be riding that high wave like all day for hours, just taking it all in with all of that doll power.
Yeah. I don't like to go to doll shows with people because I'm like I said in my message, like I'm Terminator and I'm like doodle-doo, doodle-doo, you know,
Uh-huh.
behind the screens. I'm taking it all
We
in, but
have
I
bionic eyes. We have Jamie Summer eyes. They
yeah,
like they go bionic and we know what we're
$6
looking
million
for.
man, you know, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
um if we can rebuild him. And I just know exactly where I'm like, hi, bye. You know, I'm just like, and the worst is when you got a dealer that wants to chit chat. And I'm just like, I'd love to sit. And then finally, you just got to be like, I'd love to chat, but I can't concentrate what we're
I
doing.
have shopping to do.
I'm telling you right now, Debbie, if somebody comes in and steals something underneath me while I'm
I'm
trying
gonna
to,
be so pissed.
something's going down. I hope you have security here because,
Oh,
you know, no, I obviously would never say that. I'm thinking it, but I just like it, but there's a particular vendor that I go to, dealer that I go to, I'll drop hundreds of dollars. It's not uncommon for me to spend $1,000 at her table, but she makes you work for it because she's got so much stuff. And it's like, and I remember very pointedly, there was a moment she had a huge bin, like plastic bin of individually packaged doll shoes.
oh. It's fabulous, but what a pain. Like how horrible to sit and try to like,
Exactly.
dig. And
Just
you
like
know that there's other
sweating.
tables that might have good stuff
Ah,
too, and you don't have the
exactly.
time to sit. There's literally been
Bad.
times, like if somebody has like a box full of like clothes or something, there's literally been times where I say, "Can I just buy this whole box? I'm just gonna
Yeah.
buy this whole box. Okay, whatever, $200." And then that's like fabulous because then I get to go home and dump it all over my bed and have a treasure trove of like, what did I
Like,
get? What did I find?
like
But
I did. What didn't I get? Well, how
yeah,
much did I
yeah,
lose?
yeah.
A bunch of flea ridden, but yeah. And so, well, it's a bunch of mouse
Oh,
poop.
look, there's some 90s great eras in here. Fabulous.
Exactly. There's a bunch of single shoes and I'll never find the pairs for her. But it's
Right.
literally like people standing around because she'll be like, like big Ziploc bags, do a grab bag for $10. You stuff a bag for $10. So you're like, I mean, and those are those like big green Christmas bins,
Right.
like over like
Oh,
convex shape, and you're just like, and I've stood there so many times and like with other people, and I mean you can hear like people's brainwaves are just like, what do I need? What do I need this? What can I do with this? And you don't want to put it down because I mean people are never like super grabby or anything, but at least in this area. But I've said out loud, like, this must be what it feels like to be a hoarder and have like be on those reality shows where they're trying to like they bring stuff out to you and you've got to touch it all and you got to be like, okay, do I need this? What does this go to? That's what I feel like. I'm like, I'm
uh-huh.
trying to swim through quicksand mentally
Oh,
because
yeah.
I'm like, I know there's stuff I'm missing. I got to
And you
get, I
find this
gotta get
amazing
to the other
table.
tables.
Yeah, and you find this amazing table. You know that you have limited time because you got to see the rest of the tables. And then that moment where you're trying to find stuff and you can feel, I can literally feel on the sides of me people coming into the table and like looking, and I'm like,
You're like,
no, no,
oh,
no, 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 back off. I'm like, I'm here.
buying this whole area is reserved.
Right, right. Or you have something, I have a crystal in my hand. They're like, "Are you gonna buy that?" Yes, leave me alone. I've got it in
Right.
my hand.
Yeah, I have way back when I first started doing doll shows in the late 90s. I remember there would be Blythes on the table. And there was one show in Flint, Michigan, and a woman you'll be able to appreciate this. She had a strawberry shortcake berrykin in the box
Ah,
for $8.
oh my God.
And I was like, maybe she's gonna
Yeah.
put it down, maybe she's not, because these were like $150 dolls back
Right.
then. Excuse me. And the woman was like looking over the box, and I was just like, please put it down, drop the doll. And she's like, would you take five? And I was like, I'll give you 15.
Yeah.
I actually said that. And she's like,
Yeah.
and then it was like a little old lady, and she's like, well, she had her first. And I was like, well, do you
Okay.
want five or do you want 15?
Yeah.
And she was like, and then the one was like, okay, I'll pay you eight. And I was just like, I can't do that to myself. Like
Yeah.
that's like the competitiveness in me that I have to kind of, like reel
Right.
that in every once in a
Right.
while because I'm like, it's like I don't know how to explain what that is.
No, I know exactly what it is. And it's funny in my personal life, it's only with dolls. And
Right.
there's something that kicks in. It's like this primal, like whatever. And
Yes.
I will say that like now in my lifetime, it still happens, but I recognize it and I'm way more better with
Yeah.
like it is what it is. Like, if something's meant to, it'll come to you, yada yada. But it definitely still happens. I have that exact same thing where I'm just like, I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to elbow. I'm like, that is my number one Barbie doll that you have in your,
Yeah. That's my Hispanic doll from 1979, my Hispanic Barbie, like,
Right, right.
and I don't know if you've been in a whatnot sale ever, Joey, but that's how it can be. It's not quite the same. See, that's kind of what I was talking about earlier. Is like most collectors are so removed from the physicality of a doll show and what that
Right,
process. It was so experiential and like, um, it was like an event that you went to. You go to the doll show and then you go get coffee or you go,
right.
you go grab something to eat with a friend or whatever, or sit in your car and go. I was like, I need to eat something because in when I go to shows, I don't normally eat because I usually leave around 5:30 in the morning, and then you start getting the hangry
And
at like
I'm
1 o'clock.
fueled by the high of the doll, so I forget about food. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I usually stop at the local. When I go to the one near Chicago, I usually stop at the local Jimmy John's, and then that sub just tastes like the best. But coming back from Barb's Dollhouse but that's, oh my gosh, I'm going all over the place. But she had cherry vanilla on the card, and I
Oh.
remember being like, I sometimes she would just have the most random stuff. She had a lot of gem stuff, and because not a lot of people went to her place, but she knew her prices though. But I think she had $9 on that, and it was so hard to find Darcy stuff in the wild back then. And this was
Yeah.
like the this is like early 2000s, like 2001 time
Yeah.
frame, and it was just so like diamond in the rough when you would find it and you'd be like, oh my God, or I never find her shoes anymore. I never find her bracelets anymore. I
Right.
just rarely ever even see a doll. And I don't think a lot of people know about that doll and
Yeah.
how absolutely stunningly gorgeous that whole line
Amazing.
was.
The whole product, the quality, the I mean, there was
Her
love put
Milway
into that
set.
doll. It's amazing. I'm
Yeah.
actually going to be doing a video on Fashions by Me, which is so funny because
I know
I
that doll.
huh?
I know that doll.
Yeah. And it's so funny to me because I was trying to figure out the timeline and how this happened because we have Darcy and Fashions by Me that were made. Fashions by Me was made by Hasbro, and Darcy's made by Kenner. They are the same size, and they look very similar.
Yeah.
And so, what is interesting to me is then we shoot forward into the future, and Hasbro makes Gem in 1985 that has the same stature for the most part that a Darcy did, the same size, the same foot, kind of thing. And I thought to myself, I heard people say, well, they stole that design or that original size concept or whatever from Darcy. But then I was like, well, actually, Hasbro had Fashions by Me that was like Darcy too. So I always was curious timeline wise whether Hasbro or Kenner had that. But I'm guessing Hasbro probably modeled Fashions by Me after Darcy. There had to have been some kind of tie between the two because they're too similar in size. In a world of Barbie, it's too recognizable to like, know what a Darcy's body and size is, and then to have this Fashions by Me doll that has the same, it's not an articulated body because it's like a gimmick doll where you put fabric into it to design clothes, but the shape of it is the same.
Yeah, did you ever hear about the Fashion Feelings Darcy that actually cried?
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yes.
that the Fashions by Me is very reminiscent of. I actually had some prototype Darcy stuff back when I was working on my Kenner book that unfortunately never came to fruition. But
I
that's
remember when eBay was putting up, someone was putting up Kenner Darcy prototype stuff on eBay, and I was very young and like didn't have tons of money, early 20s, and I just didn't have tons of money because I was trying to pay rent and trying to do whatever. But someone put a bunch, and there was a one of those dolls up for auction on eBay, and I wanted that, more than anything, but I couldn't afford it. I just had to watch and see. But some of that stuff sold for nothing. Some of it sold for like 150, $200, and I thought, that's a freaking prototype. Like I've paid that for regular line dolls, and that's a prototype.
now you're like, do I need my kidneys
Right, right.
delivered? Yeah, but that Fashions by Me was very reminiscent of that Fashion Feelings Darcy, and it's
Yeah,
also very similar in name too. But yeah, that whole like, God, it's just so, it's like and I hate to say it, but it's such an era it's a long gone. Like it's like we didn't really know what we had until it's gone now,
until
and
it's
that
gone. Yeah,
whole like collectability in the 90s and the 2000s, it was just so like, I remember putting in an order through Barbie collector catalog back when they used to have one, when I worked in Grand Rapids, or when I lived in Grand Rapids. I came home from work and there was a big, huge box from Mattel, and I bought 9 of the 12 Barbie basic dolls that they just issued, and every single one was flawless. And of course, those,
yeah,
of course, those are Bill Greening quality.
yeah.
And just like that, the one with the short blob,
The
short,
short blob, the bob.
short blonde bob that is the diva face mold. And
Yeah,
like, I think Bill's work has been very, very, very like instrumental in my being able to envision something differently or see
yeah,
something, like being able to take a sculpt and then reimagine it into something and still see it, you know, still have like little glimmers of it there. But like, I don't know where that comes from other than Bill's work was very, I think, instrumental in my being a collector, becoming an adult collector again. And it started with those Barbie, because I started collecting. I mean, I technically have been a collector all my life. I've loved
yeah.
dolls my entire life. And then I was a closeted collector in the early 90s, and I was buying the Barbie Disney back when, my local grocery store had a glass lit or glass enclosed lighted display case for like the pink ice Barbie. Do you remember
Right.
those? And the like
Yes.
the classique collection with they just all the gowns and everything. Those dolls were $50 on, which was a lot of
I
money back in the
remember.
90s.
I mean, even Toys R Us had glass cases. You talk about the classique. I remember those gowns with the huge frill that goes down the
Oh yeah,
sides, and they were standing in the case, and they had the little tag you could grab. They were
like
like $55 or whatever, and you grab the little Toys R Us tag, and you'd have to take it up to the front counter,
yeah.
and then they would get the doll for you. Like it was an event because it
Mhm,
was such a collector item.
mhm. Yeah, for sure. And then, I was picking up the Disney dolls like the Esmeralda and the
Yeah.
Pocahontas and the Belle and the Cinderella. And then I think that kind of like having those, and I would have them literally in my closet. And then my sister got me that Barbie Bazaar issue. And that's when I was like Cinderella, or not Cinderella, but like Alice in Wonderland going down the rabbit hole. You're just like, oh my God, what
Uh-huh.
is all of this?
Uh-huh.
And then the doll shows, and then to learn that they've been going on and there used to be so many doll shows in Michigan, and it just would be like 50 vendors, and I would be like, I just got goosebumps. I would just be
Yeah.
like, I can't get enough of this stuff. And you're just like fashion photo PJs still in the boxes. And
Right.
you're just like,
Well, and that's the thing too, is that, you, Bill, and I are all really in the similar age group. And I think that we got to experience, I know personally because I've been in it for so long. During that time period in the early 2000s, I can't tell you how many superstar era Barbies that are super, super rare today or expensive I
yeah,
had through my hands because it was, I think eBay was kind of young and people were clearing out houses and closets
yeah.
and whatever. And I mean, I was just getting like, oh yeah, Fashion Photo Christie, another one, or whatever. But like
You're
they
kind
were
of,
still
yeah,
hard to
you're kind of,
find, but they were more plentiful, like especially than what you would today. You would just have to like suck it up and hope that you could find one for $400 on eBay.
with a broken leg. Well,
Right, right.
yeah, you have to pretend like, is this something you want? And you're like, yeah, I'd probably be interested in that. And you're like, inside, you're like climbing the walls. Like, you just
Yeah.
like, because you don't want to let on because they're going to be, oh, like maybe this
Right.
is
Oh, is this
valuable.
worth something or
Oh,
what,
well, maybe I'll need to look into that. I'll get back to you when I can research prices and
I think my worst, like, the thing that haunts me the most with the doll collecting and with everything that I've experienced is I was with a doll club in the early 2000s. I was living in the Dalles, Oregon, and there was a doll club, and I was like the only guy, of course, and a gay guy, and I was younger than the rest of the ladies. And somebody had passed away, and the doll club was like invited to the home to have the first dibs at this collection that they were going to be doing an estate sale for. And there were two daughters. It was their mom that had passed away that was the big collector. And the two daughters weren't collectors and they weren't very knowledgeable. And there was this Christmas tree box, like huge, old, long Christmas tree box in the middle of the floor that was full of nude vintage Barbie dolls, all from the 60s. They were all like pre-mod era.
wow.
Just full and they were just shoved in there. And I look down and there is this like ivory white leg sticking up. It doesn't have a hole in the bottom of the foot, but I know the color and I go
Mhm.
and I grab the doll and it was a brunette number two Barbie and she was perfect. And I remember shaking, walking up to the sisters because I'd never had something like that in my hands at the time. And I was like, oh, how much for this? She's in this box over there. And the sisters looked at each other and they were like, $50. And something came over me and I felt really bad because I'm standing in their mother's home, and they don't know anything and I had this guilt hit me and I said, "Actually, you guys should online this doll because she's worth quite a bit of money." And because of that, they gave me two number threes. They had nipples. They were minty. I think I got them both for like $50 a piece, which was a beautiful thing to walk away with. But my friends still smack me to this day for not just buying that number two for $50. And it does kind of haunt me. Like, I know I was doing what I thought was the right thing at the time, but it does haunt me today where I'm like, gosh, I never had a chance like that again to like, purchase
Yeah.
something close to a number one or a number two Barbie. And that was my opportunity and I blew it.
Well, yeah, I'm a strong believer that like you knew that like my like I don't know if you remember like Paris Manos, Susan Manos,
Oh
those Barbie
yeah,
books.
yeah.
So I
I have
knew their
books.
daughter, yeah, books. I knew their daughter Carol for a long time. I actually met her at a doll show, one of the first ones I did. It was kind of funny to tell you the story, but you can appreciate this.
Yeah.
So I just had some like hodgepodge stuff. It was my first doll show. I'd never done one before. And she and her friend Doug, and it turned into be my friend too. I met the both of them there. He was looking at he was looking at, they were both looking at my table. And then he picks up a bionic woman that was missing her arm. the right one that has the
The
bionic chip
chip,
flap
yeah.
on it. And he's like, "What happened to her arm?" And I was like, "Oh, it got sent off to the factory to be repaired." And he's like, "Oh, okay." And like he didn't get my joke because it's bionic. They're
Right.
fixing, they're making her better. And then we kind
She's
of
at
like
the Bionic Beauty Parlor. Just-
with those green plugs and those
yeah.
but that's kind of what I was trying to like build the story up,
Right.
and it was like he just absolutely didn't get it. I have black holes for eyes right now. Yeah, I'm like going through the metamorphosis as we were talking about doll shows. This is what I do when I go to, no, I'm just kidding. But anyways, so I Carol had access to like crazy amazing stuff because her mom was so integral in like getting the prototype Barbie stuff. Like Susan Manos was she was celebrity in the doll community. And so it was always really cool to hang out with Carol. I haven't seen her in many, many years, but I remember being at her place one time and she had a like where they would have the kittles like in you can't see it, the lamps in the way, in the boxes, but the shelf talker.
Yeah.
So yeah, Kittles. I love Kittles. And I remember it was like a lavender purple, like maybe a little more like a maroon, but it was the graphics. It was the original 1960s cardboard, white
Oh,
and maroon graphics to like put the whole thing on the shelf,
yeah.
the shelf. And she's like, "What do you think this?" She's gonna throw it away. And I was like, "What is?" She's like, "I don't. It's worth something." I was like, "Carol, are you not your mother's daughter? Like what?"
Right. Right.
she she put it on eBay and it sold for like $260 or something. And this
Yeah.
is back in the 90s. And
Right.
so that was just like it was just such, I don't know, Joey. It was just such a great like I'm it's kind of bittersweet now because it just I mean I still actively go to doll shows, but they're not what they
Yeah.
used to be. And
I'm telling you that Joe's show, Queen of the Doll Aisle, which we've been talking about getting you over there. I'm telling you, you might even
there's
tap into that experience that
yeah.
you remember because a lot of that magic was brought back to me through the show. And part of it, I think, is because Joe himself, again, around our age group, again, has the passion like we have, but he's able to, you know, facilitate this and bring these really amazing dealers from California, from,
Yeah.
with their vintage Barbie collections and different, whatever. And the hunt is still real. You would think even today, like, yes, a lot of people know what things are, what they're worth, whatnot.
Mhm.
I still every time walk away with bins of deals that like the old days, and it's a really wonderful experience. And I think that there's one thing I've noticed that I really liked about this particular show is there's a huge camaraderie, which I feel like I miss in my everyday life. But there's this big, huge,
Yeah.
loving camaraderie of these people that have come together that all share this passion. It's wonderful to be with like our people, but yeah,
Yeah.
I think you would love that show. I was going to ask you what was your first Barbie doll that was magic for you growing up?
Probably Beauty Secrets.
Yeah.
Yeah. The being able to, the on the back, exactly, being able to to be able to
She
it
had
was like
that
the most
she
awkward thing ever, but the gadget, the gizmo, the
yeah.
it's just like, with her little powder puff and she
She
just
had
was
the star shrugging shoulders. I
yes.
remember my ex, he would take the star dolls and he would be like, I don't know, and he'd like shrug their shoulders up, because
You could. Why wouldn't you? Um,
right, right.
Yeah, I think that the Beauty Secrets Barbie for me was like, and her whole outfit was so it was so beautiful, and you had multiple pieces, so she could just wear the camisole, or she could wear the
Right.
jacket, she could wear it, just and I just yeah, and then I
And
think
variations. Oh my
yeah,
God. When I went through my beauty secrets, which I said are one of the dolls that I hoard, when I went through them, I found probably, I'm not kidding, 10 variations of her jacket. Different
Wonderful.
fabric, different colors, different laces. And I have one that looks very archaic looking, like it even has like the little Mattel satin, plastic satin ties or whatever, pink long ties to tie it at the top. I've never
Really?
seen that before, ever.
Like
Yeah,
the,
yeah,
the the texture of the ribbons that's on like the sausage curl skipper here and the TNT
yes,
ribbon. Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Kittle also have that. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting because I think at that time too, especially the late 70s in through that early 80s, before we hit magic moves, like that period of time, they were done by a bunch of different factories and there's so many differences. I mean, in Western Winking and Golden Dreams, even in Pink and Pretty with skin tones
Oh
and
yeah.
different things. And then your Golden Dreams, we have what I call the muddy Golden Dream faces that are kind of blotchy, and then we have the really sharp, beautiful Olivia Newton-John Golden Dreams that you see, and you're like, that's the doll, you know?
Yeah.
It's very interesting how many variations you can find of all of those dolls.
Yeah, the little lemon meringue doll that I pointed out earlier, instead of having her little flowers here, they're both like on one side, and I was like, I've never seen that before, and they're like factory stitched that way.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like, okay, do I want to fix that? And I was like, absolutely not.
absolutely
So
not. Yeah.
yeah, I just and the whole like Kenner thing with like strawberry shortcakes, also with Glamour Gals and Darcy, because they used like there's a I
The
think an
same
Aaron.
fabrics for Glamour
Yes,
Gals and
I
Darcy's. They
love
had
that.
cross.
And
Me too.
She-Ra and Barbie. There's a lot of
Yes.
She-Ra. Like the Hart family dress was one. It was I think a sleeping outfit for She-Ra. I don't know if
Yeah,
you
and they
ever.
even had like for the Barbie Best Buys, they had
Oh
fabrics
man,
that were used from the Guardian Goddess line, like the blue ice and the fire fabric, and then
yeah.
they ended up being little sheaths or whatever for Barbie's line. I find that all really fascinating and cool.
Yeah, I just sold a Barbie or like a Kmart. I don't know if it was like a bargain fashion or whatever, but it was the yellow floral print to one of the Star Spangled dolls from the Sunshine Family line.
Oh yeah,
That
yeah.
yeah, that
I
was a
love
variation. I
that.
just sold that out of the box for six or out of the package for $60. So I was like, okay. But I think what the other dolls that really like captured me were the Springfield High, Star, Tracy, Kelly, and Sean. Like I just was
Yes.
like, I again, it was because their arms were so bendy and they were just so posable, and it was again different face sculpts. Um, although I think Barbie wise, it was probably Beauty Secrets, but dolls in particular was probably the Sunshine Family.
Yeah.
I mean, that was, I think Beauty Secrets came out in 1980,
Yeah.
if I'm
Yeah.
correct. And then Sunshine Family was like 75, 76
Yeah.
era because their eyes were so, like, I still am so, maybe enraptured is the right word, but the toddler sweets,
Uh-huh.
I just, and the
And
baby
they
brother
use those
with
for the
freckles.
baby Barbie babysit sets too, the
Mhm.
toddler
Yeah.
suites. And I
Yeah.
love those old Barbie babysit sets.
Um,
And I was obsessed with those eyes too, but my obsession came from Fluff, Barbie's cat,
yeah, I've got
because
one on my
yeah,
shelf behind
and I
me.
have the Sunshine Family cat and dog that
I never
were
got those,
yeah, and they're adorable.
and they're
Um,
expensive.
yeah, but the Fluff, I wasn't allowed to have Barbie as a kid. But I was allowed to have the animals. My mom was like, I guess that's okay. So I had like Prancer and Dallas and Midnight and Dixie, which I was obsessed with. And Fluff was one of the things I was super obsessed with. I fixate on something that I loved as a kid and I just, whatever. But yeah, the bead eyes of those Sunshine Family dolls were so unique and interesting to those dolls.
Yeah, I've got some on my shelf back here, but I've got and I bought them on eBay, but they're hand painted the Happy Family. So they took the sculpts. So I bought them from a former Mattel employee. I mean, this is again probably, I don't know, probably early 20 or early 2000s. maybe even earlier, selling them on eBay, and I was like, what? So
Yeah.
it's with the brown eyes, but they're basically took Caucasian heads and then just painted acrylic. And then I think that also was an early, and this is before I was doing any restoration or any doll painting. And I think that put in my head, it was like, wait a second, you can just paint over this, and then you can
Right.
turn it into it. But they're hand painted. I don't know what I don't know what it is. I think dolls for me were very like a safe space for me growing up.
Yeah.
I had an older sister and she wasn't the nicest to me, but I was picked on a lot in elementary school, and I just found like a safe space and being lost in my make believe worlds in my bedroom by myself. My sister didn't want anything to do with me. She wouldn't play dolls with me ever. And my mom would buy them for me all the time. I just had dolls, 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 dolls. I could never get enough of them. Is that a song? I don't know.
Yeah.
Dolls,
And I
dolls.
think it's funny because we had like similar but different, like in the sense where I couldn't get enough and I was obsessed at a young age, but I wasn't allowed to have them, which also propelled the drive, I think, because it was this unattainable thing that I wanted so badly to have. And I would go over to friends' houses where their sisters would have, the Barbie townhouse with the elevator or the A-frame dream house and whatever. And I would just lose myself. I'd just be like, and the sisters most of the time were like, you can't play with me, you can't play with my dolls. And I would just
Oh,
be like, oh, because this girl brought magic moves to I think it was an after school daycare that I was at. And I remember this little girl got everything, all the expensive things. When Teddy Ruxpin came out, she brought Teddy and nobody could touch him, but she like showed him to us and played stories for us. But she had got a Magic Moves Barbie. And I remember walking into, I think it was a Payless drugstore, and there was a huge cardboard cutout hanging from the ceiling of Magic Moves, and it said 26.99. And I remember my mom losing it when she'd seen that. She said, "That is ridiculous! Like
that is
for a
ridiculous.
doll, like that is it made of gold? That's a crazy price." But Magic Moves was kind of like one of their first. I think she was a gimmick doll, but also one of their first, not collector, but obviously like you had to have a little money if you have this doll. If your parents buy, it's like buying the magical mansion. You live in that neighborhood. You were able to have this doll. This little girl had Magic Moves and she had brought it and she could care less about it. She was not impressed, not interested, and I was just like losing it over this Magic Moves doll, and she would not let me touch it, not let me hold it, nothing, because I
God,
was a boy and I
made
was
it
not.
worse for you because then you
Oh, it's
could see it.
awful. When I finally started rebelling as a teenager and collecting, and by that point, my mom was just like, "I'm glad it's not drugs," and I'm like, "It kind of is," because I, keep
Oh,
wanting them. But it was, I think, I don't know. It's probably what drove me to be doing what I'm doing for a living today. I love it. There's something about the art and the dolls where it's more than just like I don't play with dolls, but I think that they are a movable piece of art,
they're like
and
little
that you
puppets.
can dress, change, you can, photograph, and there's just something so special about them. I just have a weird connection. And I noticed that one thing I really saw in your art and your style is you were obviously really inspired by 60s era. Like I have this case out because I'm thinking Kittles and like the art that they used for like the mod era and stuff. I see that in your inspiration, that's a big part of like what you love and what inspires you. Oh, it's intermission.
So, yes, to answer your question, that's well, it's still kind of dark in here. I mean, I was born in 72, so a lot of the 60s was kind of, I mean, I grew up on a lot of that music, and I don't know if that was kind of instrumental. I I am drawn to a lot. I think it's maybe the elaborateness of the hairstyles of the 60s.
Yeah.
Um, but also the makeup. And then, yeah, I guess I never really thought about it. I try to like venture forward. I've pushed myself like for a while. I had some Poppy Parker sculpts that I bought from that place that we buy heads from on eBay, and they always intimidated me.
Yeah.
But when I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna, and I think it was like maybe a year or two ago, I was like, I'm just gonna try my hand at it. And I was very much in of space where it was in a comfort zone. And then that's what I wanted to kind of keep going because I thought that that's all I could really ever do. And then a turning point for me was painting those poppy sculpts and just trying my hand at it. And they turned out really, really good, both of which I've since sold, just the head sculpts. They were
Yeah.
rerouted, but when I bought them. But um, and then I was like, okay, I think I'm onto things. But people have sent me Odile sculpts, and they have sent me some of the more modern fashion
Mhm.
Barbie line, but they sent me some silk stones, and I never really thought about painting modern. And
Yeah.
then I'm finding that I can, like, I think my comfort zone is definitely in the mod era because it's what I'm so familiar with. But in learning different shapes, and you've probably experienced this too as an artist, when you have a different sculpt, your brain, the muscle memory isn't there. So
Yeah.
it's something, because I love to learn things. I love like information. I'm constantly Googling things or just researching whatever, just random like life stuff too. But being able to work on a different surface, I mean,
Yeah.
it's still a doll head, but it's like to study the shapes, because when I paint, I have to break things down as into sections, as you know, it's like, and it took a long time for me to really understand that you don't just paint the sides of an iris. You have to paint the iris and then you build up around that. You don't
Right.
paint just the like superstar Barbie eye shape. Her irises are
Yeah.
such a unique, like it's like an iris color, but then you have like almost like a
Right.
teardrop shape, and it's like getting your brain to understand and comprehend like what you're painting.
Mm.
Um, I am definitely heavily influenced by the 60s, but I'm also heavily influenced by the 40s
Yeah.
and the 20s and 30s. And
Me
sometimes,
too.
like I have been, I mean, when Mel Odom's Jean Doll came out
Yeah.
in the 90s, Joey, I sold all of my Darcy collection to buy. Yeah,
Yeah.
I all of it. I mean, and my friend Carol went to a signing of Mel, and he signed on the catalog Darcy Who, because she told him, my friend who's Darcy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, um, and I've never told him that it's me because he may not remember, but I have since rediscovered the Jason Wu Jean dolls,
Yes.
and I have two of them. Actually, they're in
I've
their
got a
box.
bunch and I have some in the case up over
You
here.
really?
Yeah.
And I mean, I couldn't afford them when they came out, but I mean, I don't think there's anything that Integrity Toys doesn't touch that they just don't like. They improved on the Jean doll, obviously with Mel's direction, I'm sure, but
Everything
um,
except for production. They're the most amazing jeans ever and I'm in awe, but I hate the yellowing of the plastic and also the fragility of it now. Their necks are like literally breaking, like their heads are breaking off of the necks of those integrity bodies. I just bought a convention exclusive one that I paid like $350 for. I
really,
think she's like Love Paris or something. Gorge, like so stunning. But just shipping her, and it wasn't the person. They had her bubble wrapped. They had her wrapped so good. And I take her out of the box and her head falls off. And I'm just like, oh no, that was so much money. And then you're spending, people have blank bodies because Integrity had produced just blank bodies to rebody your old Ashton Drake dolls onto. And so, but I mean, just for a blank body, people are trying to sell them for $150, and it's like, well, I might as well buy a full new doll for that, rather than body switching or freaking out about how is this head switch going to go even with heating pads with this brittle plastic. So that's my one, because I'm on the same page with you. They're so amazing, but they also freak me out because I'm spending money on dolls that like I'm like, okay, how long are these bodies gonna hold these heads up? It's like getting our childhood era superstar Barbies and stuff, and now they're getting the little cracks on the sides of their necks, and we have to be so careful with them.
Or this that's happening now with the melting around the. I was going to show this out earlier,
Yeah, and it never used to do that before. It just started happening.
and unfortunately, yeah, and like if I were to move, I mean, this doll is very. I got her in a lot, but
Yeah.
this was like the era of the 70s that you didn't like because this is what they were issuing, and like these kinds of Best Buys that were like
Yes.
okay,
Yes. Yes.
it's something, but I or like this one that is on this yeah,
I
that's like
actually always kind of liked that one, but I think it's because it's so cute and plain, and then there's the pops of those neon or bright colors like the pink and stuff. Yeah, exactly.
yeah. So this is a doll, and I don't have the best lighting in here, but this is a never produced. So they did German Francie, but they never
Oh,
made a
right.
black German Francie.
I've never seen the Black German Francie.
This is a custom that I created, and I was like,
Yeah.
let me see if I can do this. So I had a random extra repro Francie body, and
Yeah.
then I have made
Melinda.
yeah, Melinda
Yeah.
had. But then this is again, it's not the best lighting here. But then I
Oh,
did
she's
this with
beautiful.
pastels, and I think I may have done Rit dye. It was something I bought some pan pastels, which I'd never worked with before, in
Yeah.
various shades of trying to figure out, okay, like how can I make an African American skin tone or a range of skin tones with using pan pastels, and it's
Right.
really difficult because it gets blotchy, but she turned out pretty good. I was
I
gonna put
always worry about the blotchiness and also the fading of the color. Yeah.
Yeah, so far she's been pretty
Yeah.
consistent. I mean, I
That's
made
awesome.
her probably about 3 years ago now, and she looks exactly like I did before. And sometimes I will do that just because I get a lot of people that want me to restore their dolls, and then I'm always like, yeah, I don't want to use a product that I've never used before on somebody else's doll. I
Right.
want to have a history with that before I do that. The pan pastels, I do Sennelier chalk pastels for blushing, but I've never done it to like tint a whole
A
head.
whole head.
And
Yeah.
I wanted to see how that held up over time. And plus, it was just, again, just a doll that I made for myself, but she almost looks like a German Kara,
Yeah,
as
she's
opposed to a
beautiful.
German. But this was something like painting. A friend of mine wanted me to make them a custom German or do a custom German Francie for them. And again, I was just like, oh my God, eyebrows. I don't know those eyebrows. And people
The
ask me all the
shapes.
time, eyebrows are not for the faint of heart. Like
No,
at
no, they
all.
are not. And it's funny because I think the picture's still up on Etsy, but I did like, it's been probably 20 years ago now, but I did a German Francie using a Melinda. And
Did
I
you?
remember those brows were not like, I'm used to like 60s or superstar brows. Like I know them by like the back of my hand, but these new shapes and then to get both of them to like match, both of them to look the same, you're thinking about also distance over the eyes. There's so much. It was hard, and when I was done, they looked great. They still looked like sisters, not twins, which with Mattel you wanted to look like twins because it's like you want it to be perfect. But I was so happy that I at least got a fairly okay sisters result where it's like, no, it looks, she's still cute. It looks good.
Next time on Part 2 with Amy Sprouse.
I'm collaborating with another artist and making another collection of dolls while I'm making this collection and this collection and doing eBay and doing whatever. And it's like, I know. And it's like, oh my gosh, it gets overwhelming. You get
Just do
messages
it.
saying,
What do
can
you
you do
mean?
this? Can you do
Do it.
this? Can you do this? It's like, yes, but my time.
It's like, but it was more
Yeah, yeah. You have
like.
old-fashioned Jody in her carriage, like. Just open up a trunk on your bed, start playing.
Mine would have a shrunken head in it though, but